They told us Canada was the safest country on earth. But lately, Toronto has become unrecognizable. Streets once filled with laughter now echo with fear. And what's happening behind the scenes? It's something no one saw coming. Stay to the end, because what you're about to hear might change how you see Canada forever. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Safety. For decades, Canadians believed that their country was an outlier, a peaceful oasis in a violent world. Toronto, especially, was held up as a model of multicultural coexistence and civic order. But over the last 5 years, that image has been undercut by hard numbers. In 2024, Toronto recorded 86 homicides, which pushed its homicide rate to about 3.1 per 100,000 people, the highest in recent years. Meanwhile, overall major crime incidents in Toronto in 2024 reached 50,836, only a 3.5% drop from 2023's 52,672, revealing a persistently high baseline. What's striking is that certain crime categories are exploding even as the public narrative insists things are stabilized. In 2024, sexual violations rose to 3,570, a sharp jump from 2,030 the previous year. Assaults also reached a record high of 25,819, up from 24,014 in 2023. On the surface, Toronto still ranks as relatively safe. Its 2024 Crime Severity Index is 59.4, slightly up, plus 1% from 2023, with a crime rate of 4,177 incidents per 100,000. But averages mask what's happening in neighborhoods. In districts like Scarborough, Brampton, and Jane Finch, residents report that break-ins, street robberies, and carjackings have become weekend routines. Even in neighborhoods once considered safe, drivers now lock their doors on every street. Public transit, too, is no longer immune. Video clips circulate of stabbings, mace attacks, and assaults in subways and buses. Once a source of trust in safety, transit now feels vulnerable. Underlying these crime metrics is a shift in criminal methodology. The organized crime landscape in Toronto is no longer confined to street gangs. Tow truck gangs, for instance, have become a violent force, involved in extortion, staged collisions, and now linked to numerous shootings. The city that once led in safety rankings is now grappling with business sector crime that operates with corporate discipline. Even the phenomenon of auto theft illustrates the scale of the problem. From January to mid-2024, Toronto police recorded 5,049 auto thefts, a drop of 21% year over year. But that's still a staggering number. Carjackings, meanwhile, are rising. Organized rings strip vehicles in hours, ship parts abroad, or disguise exports via ghost companies. The emotional toll is heavy. Families who once left cars in driveways now wake to empty garages. All of this is happening beneath the veneer of low crime statistics. The illusion of safety that Canadians held onto is fracturing. The cracks are showing, and the question looms. Toronto isn't failing yet, but it's warning us something bigger is coming. Chapter 2. The Real Culprits. It's not enough to say crime rose. We must name who engineered it. Over the past decade, Canada's immigration system expanded rapidly. In 2024, Canada processed over 108,000 reported fraud claims in various sectors. A recent study revealed alarming rises in fake job offer scams, fraudulent consultants, and misrepresentations targeting newcomers. Fake recruitment companies now charge thousands in processing fees, ghost file immigration paperwork, and vanish when clients demand results. In the first half of 2024 alone, IRCC refused 52,000 temporary residence applications due to misrepresentation, more than the total refusals in 2023. That's not a coincidence. It shows the scale of abuse. Some of these applicants are trapped in a web, paying brokers, accepting illegal work, and forced to stay silent under threat of deportation. Corporate actors profit from this as well. Contractors and agencies with links to immigration networks often push hiring through back channels, cutting out qualified local job seekers in favor of commission-based placements from overseas. The fraudulent activities extend to document forgery and identity manipulation. Fake visa and citizenship applications, multiple identity theft schemes, and forged supporting documents have become business lines for some agencies. IRCC publicly states they continuously train to detect this fraud and collaborate with CBSA, RCMP, and foreign agencies. But the volume is overwhelming. Canada investigates over 9,000 immigration fraud cases every month, amounting to over 108,000 per year. The system's weakness lies in its scale and decentralization. Provincial and municipal agencies are underfunded. Federal agencies struggle with backlog. Agencies that are supposed to audit and vet applicants often operate with minimal staff and outdated databases. Whistleblowers in IRCC and related departments say data is hidden, approvals rubber-stamped, or complaints shelved. These internal failures create space for criminal exploitation. When corruption seeps into hiring and visa systems, the damage is structural. In sectors like hospitality, trucking, logistics, and care work, local job seekers report being displaced by foreign workers with weaker bargaining power. In certain firms, managers linked to foreign recruitment networks drive internal preference hiring, not merit-based. Without transparency, these dynamics go unchallenged. Elsewhere, money laundering tied to real estate, shell companies, and vehicle export is deeply intertwined. Toronto's hot real estate market has been fueled in part by foreign capital, inflating home values far beyond the reach of middle-class Canadians. Every stolen car, every fake job scam, every layered shell entity adds to a system rigged for insiders. These are the real culprits. Not desperation, not culture, but a networked system of greed, manipulation, and institutional neglect. To reclaim safety, the system must be exposed, no matter how painful it is to reveal. Chapter 3. A city under pressure. Toronto today feels like a pressure cooker. The city's core is bursting with demand while services and systems lag dangerously behind. When public infrastructure fails, crime fills the gap. Housing is ground zero. In 2023, Toronto recorded 49,359 major crimes, including 12,302 auto thefts, equating to 1,587 crimes per 100,000 people in a population of just over 3.11 million. Even excluding auto theft, the rate is 1,191 per 100,000, a 15% increase since 2014. Many families now double up in basements, multiple generations cohabit in tiny units, and newcomers compete for beds in shared rooms, not by choice, but by necessity. Services are crumbling. Hospitals overflow. Schools can't absorb more students. Public transit is strained, and road maintenance lags. The pressure accelerates every kind of breakdown. In underserved neighborhoods, basic policing is minimal. Patrols are fewer, response times slower, and community trust weaker. Psychologically, citizens feel betrayed. People once proud of being Canadian now feel like witnesses to a slow collapse. Neighbors once greeted each other now exchange grim nods. Cameras, alarms, and motion sensors replace open doors. Apps to check in with loved ones when arriving home have become common. The question, "Did you arrive safely?" is no longer rhetorical. Crime in many places has ceased being an exception. It's routine. In the first half of 2024, assaults were up 8%, robberies 21%, and break-ins 6% year to year. Some neighborhoods report nightly break-ins. Others tell of teenagers carjacked walking home from school. No block feels safe permanently. Cultural cohesion is fraying. Ethnic enclaves, once sources of community strength, now function as segregated zones competing for resources. Cliques of newcomers and locals barely mingle. Where diversity once felt inspirational, it now occasionally feels like competition, a fight for limited opportunity and public space. Toronto is being tested. The city's infrastructure, social systems and civic trust are cracking under strain. If the city fails to stabilize, the pressure won't remain local. It will ripple outward, dragging the province and nation with it. Chapter 4. Politicians in denial. While Toronto's metrics worsen, political leaders cling to polished narratives and comforting slogans. At Queen's Park and Parliament Hill, they boast safe streets and controlled growth, even as evidence mounts to the contrary. When questioned, they pivot. We're investing more in policing, we support communities, but rarely confront the root causes. In 2025, Ottawa published a new 2025-2027 immigration levels plan, which for the first time extends targets for temporary residents as part of total volumes. Yet critics argue this ignores absorption capacity. How many newcomers can Ontario, Toronto or Canada realistically integrate without collapse? When confronted with data showing skyrocketing fraud and crime, leaders often blame external forces, blame mongers, or anti-immigration rhetoric. When scandals break, responses are performative. Departments reshuffle bureaucrats, internal audits are launched, and PR statements promise zero tolerance. But after the headlines fade, little changes. Inquiry findings linger, but prosecutions are rare. Critics call it a cycle of accountability avoidance. Investigate, report, forget. The public loses faith with each forgotten scandal. The media plays a role too. Many major outlets shy away from exploring structural problems tied to immigration, foreign money, or ethnic dynamics for fear of backlash. Investigative journalists who raise uncomfortable truths face pressure, demonization, or tone policing. The result: coverage is shallow, and most citizens see only surface-level framing of crime versus diversity. Even watchdog agencies are pressured. Regulators meant to vet immigration proposals or business licenses are understaffed and underfunded. Oversight becomes symbolic. Critics argue policy is now shaped by optics, not outcomes. A world where diversity speaking points matter more than public safety data. Politicians also live in insulated bubbles. They travel in convoys, live in gated neighborhoods, and enjoy personal security. Their constituents struggle with crime and insecurity daily. The disconnect grows wider. Some leaders dismiss critics as extremists or fearmongers, delegitimizing dissent. Denial is the default. But when the gap between narrative and reality becomes too large, trust fractures. The ethics underpinning democracy, accountability, fairness, governance, begin to crumble. Toronto is sounding alarms. The question: can leaders awaken before the damage becomes irreversible? Chapter 5. The Wake-Up Call. Now is not the time for quiet dissatisfaction. It's the moment for collective reckoning. This is the wake-up call Toronto and all of Canada must answer. If we ignore it, collapse won't be local. It will become national. Already, independent voices, grassroots groups, and citizen journalists are stepping in where institutions won't. Whistleblowers drop documents. Virtual communities gather metadata, map crime clusters, and publish contractor immigration link charts. Online forums trace hiring networks tied to recruitment agencies. These decentralized networks threaten the control of official silence. Neighborhood groups too are rebelling. In Brampton, Scarborough, and Etobicoke, residents hold town halls, demand transparency from city councils, and push for joint police community patrols. They demand that municipal budgets prioritize public safety over optics. These movements show the spirit of Canada First is not dead. It's re-emerging through citizen activism. But this rising fire must be managed by truth, not division. The movement must call out exploitation, regardless of origin. Legitimate newcomers deserve support, but rule breakers should not be protected. It's time for honest dialogue. Fair integration, not special treatment. Structural integrity, not silent favoritism. The coming years will decide Canada's legacy. Will we be remembered as a nation that allowed its systems to rot, or one that rose from decay to reform itself? The next level of battles will be at legal courts, audit offices, procurement processes, and public accountability, not just in streets. Toronto can still be saved, but only if we treat this wake-up call as a battle for identity. Each voice matters, every voter, every listener, every citizen who refuses to look away. The power to reverse this decline is bottom-up, from the many demanding truth, not the few offering platitudes. This is more than a local crisis. It's a structural reckoning for Canada. Toronto is the canary in the coal mine. What happens here will ripple across provinces, cities, and the national psyche. Stand up, speak out, and demand the integrity Canada once promised. The time to act is now. If you believe Canadians deserve the truth, hit like, share, and subscribe, and let your voice be heard. Because silence is no longer an option.